Good afternoon, Year Sixes. It is Mr. Bellingham here with a music lesson for you. We're going to carry on today with our series of lessons looking at music theory, in particular the different elements that make up music. So we looked last week at rhythm and how we could program that drum machine, do you remember, to create different kind of common rhythms that we might find in some different types of music. This week we're going to move on to looking at how we can use different notes and different patterns and scales of notes to create some tunes. And then we're going to look as well at how we can combine them together and just with the two elements really start to build up what sounds like a pretty cool song. Okay? So we are going to continue using that website we were using. So I'll pop the link here for you again, the Ableton Learning website. So if you follow the link or click on the link in the description in the video below, it will jump you over to the Ableton website. And today I'm going to be, if we look at the menu here, I'm going to be on this section. Last week we looked at beats. Today we're moving on to notes and scales. So we can click there and just click for now on Explore Pitch. Okay. So pitch is something that should be, relatively familiar to us. We've talked about the idea of pitch in class before, but just to recap in case we've forgotten, obviously it might have been a while since we've talked about it, the pitch is just talking about how high or how low a note is. So if you think about some of the instruments we might play in school, think about bass guitars, you think about big drums when we use the samba drums and we use those big drums that make a low, deep sound. They're low in pitch. If you think about playing up on the 12th fret of a ukulele or blowing a recorder or playing on a triangle or a tambourine, they can make a sound which is high in pitch. Okay? Think about a bear growling is going to be low in pitch. Think about a little robin in the garden tweeting is going to be high in pitch. Pitch simply means how low or how high the sound is. Okay. Sometimes we can get confused and think it's to do with volume because it might feel to us like low or high sounds might sound louder or quieter, but it's only just how high or how low in pitch they are. Okay. If you imagine the keyboard, think about the keyboards we used at school. Right down on the left-hand side, we have the very low notes. Right over up at the top on the right-hand side, we have the very high notes, okay? And they differ in pitch, okay? So, obviously, we have different notes, and different notes have different pitches. So I'm just going to start and just click on these for you just to have a look at. So we've got an example of an A, a C, a D, an E, and a G note. And hopefully we can hear that they don't all sound the same pitch. Okay, I hope you can hear that as we're going along, they're going up in pitch. They're getting higher, aren't they? Okay, so I'm just going to just skip over that one a second. And I want to have a very quick look at something called keys and scales. Okay, so we've talked in class about key before. Okay, if you've done band with me or anything like that, we've talked about songs being in different keys. Okay, the key, again, just changing the pitch of the whole song. So we've often learned songs that are in the key of C or the key of G. We might have learned the odd song in the key of D or the key of A as well. Okay, but usually we tend to stick to C or G simply because they're easier to play on guitars and keyboards when we're first learning out. Okay, and all it means if we're playing in the key of C is that any note with the name C is kind of like the home note, okay? It's kind of the one that's, we call it the root note or the tonic. It's the standard one that always sounds good and we always come back to that. And all the other notes that we might use other notes kind of reflect around the note C, okay? If we're in the key of G, then G becomes our root note. Okay, if we're in the key of F, then F is our root note or our tonic, and everything kind of comes back to that note. Okay, so for today, we're going to stick in the key of C, but I want to have a look at scales. Again, if you've done any sort of keyboard lessons with me, we've learned to play our C major scale. Okay, it's a collection of different notes in the key of C. And there are loads and loads of different scales, okay? And I want you to think of scales just like a collection of some of the notes that we can use. So if you think about a keyboard, we have that huge range of notes from one side to the other, don't we? Okay, and we could play a song using any of the white notes, any of the black notes, and it would sound almost certainly very messy and not kind of together. So to keep our music creating the particular kind of feel and mood that we want, we can use a scale. And all the scale does is it says, I'm not going to use these notes, and I'm going to choose to use these selection of notes, okay? Think of it a little bit like when you're painting a picture or you're drawing a picture or something. Think of it as the palette of colours that the artist might use. You can mix paint to make any colour, can't you? Okay, you can make any combination of hue from the different colours, and depending on how much red you put in, how much white you put in, how much yellow or whatever you put in the paint can change the colour very slightly. But if you're going to start a picture, you might mix out 7 different colours, okay, some light red, some dark red, some kind of middly red, some blues, you know, whatever you want to create the mood that you want. And scales work in this way. There are loads of different scales, but we can choose a particular scale for a particular mood, okay? So, today then, I want to just have a look at the 2 probably most common scales. Again, we're going to stick in the key of C. And the first one is called a major scale. It says here is the C major scale. Okay, you've got a picture here to show you how you would play the C major scale on a piano or a keyboard. And as you can see, it's all the white notes. Okay, it uses every white note. It would carry on again up here. That would just be the next kind of octave higher in pitch. And it says here in the writing, most people tend to hear major scales as happy or bright, kind of relaxed. So down here, I'm not going to experiment with changing the notes, but on the left hand side here, we have all of the notes for the major scale, and it goes up C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? And you notice we have 2 C's, and this one is just a C, an octave higher. It's higher in pitch, but it's still a C note, okay? And if we click on it, it'll just play for us, and you'll hear it going up the scale over and over again. Okay, and can you see how just using any of those notes, they sound nice together, don't they? Okay, they sound happy, they sound bright, but they work well together and they create a mood. And that's because we've chosen those notes. We've not picked any other notes that don't fit in the scale. We've just stuck to the C major scale. Okay. The other main scale that we use is called a minor scale, and it's very similar. Do you think before we had C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C? Can you see here that instead of E, it's a darker grey and it's E flat? Okay, and if you have a look here at the notes on the keyboard, we'd have C, D, and then E would have been there. But instead of skipping the black note and going to E, we moved the E down to E flat. Okay, we've moved the A down to A flat. We've moved the B down to B flat. Okay, and suddenly just moving those 3 notes, just one position down, one position flat, we create a minor scale. Okay, and let's hear how it sounds different. Okay, so can you hear how it still sounds really good? It still works together. It doesn't sound like any of the notes stick out as being wrong or don't fit with the others. It sounds musical, but it creates a different mood, doesn't it? It seems more sad and dark and a bit more dramatic. Okay, and that's why we would choose whether we use the major scale, the minor scale, or loads of the other different scales that we might come across as we get older and we learn more about music. They're different colours. If we think back to the paint, they're different ways of creating a mood. Okay, so I'm going to skip over this one, but feel free to have a look at it in your own time if you'd like to. But our main activity today then is going to be to have a go at creating our own our own melody using some different notes and scales. Okay, so we're going to create our own pattern. I've already created one here, but I just want to explain to you how things work. Okay, so first thing, a bit like when we looked at the drum program last week when we programmed the drums in, we have the tempo at the top. I've set mine to 85 beats per minute, but remember, you can go a little bit faster, a little bit slower. It's all to do with the mood that you want to create in your song. We have 2 whole octaves of a scale over here. So we have C, and it goes all the way up to C, and then it goes all the way up to another C. Okay, and at the moment, the reason it's the C notes are in red, these are the root notes, the tonics, are because on the side here we have C. If I change that to the key of D, can you see the notes of the scale have changed? We talked about playing in the key of G before. Okay, if I click on G, the notes on the major scale have changed. Okay, I'm just going to pop it back to C for now. Across here, we have some of the most common scales. So we've talked already about the major and the minor, okay, but there are other scales like the Dorian and the Lydian and the Mixolydian, okay, and any of those could work as well. Experiment with them, see how they sound different, okay? And if I was to change from the major to the minor, can you see it's changed the notes down the side, okay? It hasn't moved anything I've already programmed in. It's just changed the E to the E flat, the A to the A flat, the B to the B flat, like we said, and it will give my pattern that I've created a very different feel. Okay, so what I want you to do then is your activity today is to pick a tempo first. Okay, so I'm going to leave mine at 85 beats per minute. You need to make sure this one here says the same as this one here. Okay, then you're going to come down and you're going to program a drum rhythm just like we did last week. Okay, try and remember some of the tips I gave you last week about keeping the kick drum on the beats. Okay, keeping the claps kind of on the off beat, filling things in at different times as well. Okay, being a bit more creative with the hi-hats. So here's my example. I've created a drum beat here. Okay, and then with that in mind, once you've created your drum beat, come and have a look at how to create your own patterns using the notes from the scale. So pick the key you want, okay, pick the scale that you want. I'm going to leave mine in C major for now, and start to drag notes in. So all you do, just like when we program the drums, if I want to have I'm just going to take these ones out for now, because I did those in afterwards. Okay, so I'm only using one note at a time at first. Okay, so I'm not putting like a note there, so we're playing 2 notes at a time. Okay, so just to keep it simple, we're only playing 1 note at a time. But let's say I wanted to add a note in here, okay, in this gap. I just pick which note I'd like it to be. Let's say I wanted a B, and I click right there. Okay, if I wanted to lengthen this note out, again, I don't want to make notes overlap for now, just because we could get potentially kind of strange clashes of notes. Let's say I wanted to make this G a bit longer and not have the gap. All I do is click on this little kind of black line at the side and just drag it across. Okay, so I can combine long notes and short notes and play with the different ideas of rhythm. Okay, so I'm going to pop it back for now. When I'm ready and I think I'm happy, I can press play to see how it sounds together. Okay, and let's say I'm happy with that and I like it. What I can then do is I can press play on both of them at the same time, and the software will loop them together so they stay in time with each other automatically. So I'll start my drums going. Okay, then when I'm ready, I start my notes going. Okay, And can you see then, suddenly, just using a little bit of a pattern, I can get quite a good song going, okay? Now, if you want an extra bit of a challenge, you can also play with the notes at the bottom. So maybe if you've got a C, you might want to add another C in, which is what I did before, okay? Then when I went to the G over here, I thought, oh, let's add another G in, okay? And then when I got to this bar, I thought, oh, I'll try a C. And then when we got to the fourth beat, I saw, I was on an F, so I added an F in, okay? And you could make that kind of a slightly different pattern. Okay, I'm going to do a thing like that, and we can make our rhythm just a little bit more interesting if we'd like to. Okay, so that is about it then really for the activity, just to walk you through how you do it. So remember, we're going to program our kick drum in, we're going to pick the key and the scale. One thing I forgot to show you actually is when you're here, once you've made your pattern, if you then want to try a different key or try a different scale, if you click back to the, let's change it to the key of F, it will change for you. Let's make it into F minor. Let's see how it sounds now. Okay, let's put it into the key of G sharp and put it into the Lydian scale and see how it sounds now. Okay, so can you see how even after you've made your pattern, you can explore how changing the key, changing the scale will give you a different feel and create a very different mood, okay? So have a go at that, see if you can create your own drum rhythm and your own pattern of notes using one of those scales and one of those keys. As always, if you're able to share that with me, that's great, because it means I can see how you're getting on and how you're doing. Okay, it was great to see some of the work you did last week on using the beats as well, so well done for that. And other than that, I think that is it for today's video. Just go and explore, have a bit of a play. Feel free to look at some of those other sections that I skipped over if you want to learn some other things in a little bit more detail. And enjoy making music with those different scales, okay? I will hopefully see you next week, because it sounds like we will be back in school. So look forward to seeing you soon, and until then, obviously, stay safe and, yeah, enjoy making music, okay? Goodbye.